Hello and welcome back to Broadside Gaming with me, Zug. So today we're carrying on with our Ogryn series, and let's just jump straight in, shall we? So this setup is very similar to the last video. There are a few changes in it that will just help our team a little bit more. So weapons, pretty much the same as the other video, but I'll go through them quickly with you. I'm using the Carsolas pickaxe. After a lot of testing, I feel this is the best of the three. The Brax is very good if you just want insane single target damage with a little bit of horde clear, but the Carsolas can be turned into a very, very crazy armor breaking weapon. Again, I will show you how to do that in case you haven't seen the last video. And for the ranged weapon, I'm still using the kickback with Blaze Away and Surgical with Infested and Flak on it. The reason I've gone for Infested on this is dealing with dogs and things like that. I mean, you can go for Maniac, which works just as well. It gives you slightly more options, but Infested is quite a good stat. But Maniac is more of a catch-all that is slightly more useful. I just like Infested on these sometimes. If you want to change it, you can go for Flak Maniac with Full Bore and Terrifying Barrage, or Flak Maniac with Full Bore and Surgical. They're all very useful. Again, if you want to use a Ripper gun, you can go for Fire Frenzy with Inspiring Barrage for a bit of toughness regen. Flak and Maniac again are very good on these ones, or you can go for the Grenade Gauntlet, which is basically the big friendly rock in gun form. Again, Flak and Maniac with Glory Hunter and pinpointing targeting. This is the blessing that makes this weapon good. So hold it, charge up some power, let go, and it's basically the big friendly rock. I'll show you on this. What you have to do is you brace, as you can see down at the bottom, it's stacking up, and just try and snipe anything you can. Try not to let go of the bracing in between shots, as you will lose all of your stacks if you do. But as you can see, it's very powerful, but only has a couple of shots. But as you can see down the bottom, it also stacks one of our talents, and we'll get into that in a second. So, ranged weapons are pretty much up to you. Use whatever you fancy. I just prefer the kickback because it's a very versatile weapon. It's very good for sniping elites. Sorry about that. Slight interruption in the video there, but we'll carry on like nothing happened. So, that is the ranged weapons. I'm just going to touch on the Carsolas pickaxe again, and why I do think it is the best of the three. And I'll show you now before we get on to the curios and the build, but it is because basically it's normal heavy attacks, big sweeping strikes. The stamina cost for dodging around while doing this is minimal, which you always want to be doing, really. You never want to stand still. You kind of want to be... Imagine a small circle around the group of enemies you're fighting. You kind of want to dance around and keep yourself from getting hit and getting shot. But when it comes to heavier enemies, we have two amazingly useful tricks that we can use that give both a 10% damage buff and a 10% attack speed buff that is not mentioned anywhere on the weapon. So the first one is the block push overhead strike. So you blocking, push, attack. Oh God, it's going to do this again, isn't it? It did it on the last video. There you go. The block, push, overhead. So you hold down the right mouse button, hold down left as well, left on its own, and overhead. So right to hold the block, right and left to block push. Then as you do that, you just hold down the left button, and you overhead strike them. Now, there is another way of doing it as well. And this way is your special action button. I've bound mine to mouse button 4 on the side of my mouse. So what you can do is you hook them forwards, then hold left, and it's an overhead strike with 10% increased damage, up, and of course the increased damage from thrust. So you hook them, and then you cook them. And that is how we deal with armor. And you can use this on the bulwarks. It opens up their shield and allows you to strike. You do have to be quite quick, and sometimes they just don't want to open up that shield. So the best way to do that really is to hook them, dodge left, and strike down. This can't work all the time, obviously, especially when the Borgs spawn in 2s or 3s, when they're basically a big cylinder of armor. So you may have to use Indomitable to charge through them, knock them over, hook them, and hit them. It's a very, very powerful combo. This is why I love this weapon the most out of all three of them. It rivals the Branks for its ability to kill armor. So that's that out of the way. And of course, defense is your dump stat on all three pickaxes. No matter what one you choose, defense is the dump stat. Right, let's jump into the curios. So I've said this before in other videos. There are several ways you can do this. I prefer the max health option. I find it is the most survivable and most useful way to do it. So in all three curios, we have max health, apart from this one that got toughness locked on it, but ignore that. So I'll go for max health, toughness regeneration speed, damage resistance gunners, and more health. If you really want to, you can drop the 5% increase to health for sniper resistance. It all depends how much you think it's worth it. The health will help you defend against everything. The sniper resistance helps you just shrug off a shot or two of that. So each one of these is exactly the same apart from this one, but this one didn't roll properly, so ignore it. But if you don't want to do it that way, you can do it the other way, which is toughness. So for that, you do the exact same thing. You go for the blessing is toughness, the perks are damage resistance gunners, toughness regeneration speed, and increased toughness. The reason I don't like this is because the way toughness works in this game is it's like temporary health from Vermintide, but it gets stripped off of you so quickly in Damnation and Auric that I prefer to have a cushion of health that I can tank a few hits and it basically means nothing, and it gives me that split second to be able to farm back up the toughness again and carry on going. Because with the Ogryn, you have so many ways of regaining toughness if all you need is those few seconds. But increasing the toughness has such diminishing returns that even if you put all three toughness cures in, you'd still be riding at 160 toughness. So that's why I'm not a huge fan of it. So let's have a look at the talents. There is one thing in this build that you should probably change, which is what I've just done there. That is the only real option in this build. You can drop the 25 toughness here and lose 10% melee damage, but the toughness will probably be better in the long run. So what we're doing is we're grabbing Furious. For each enemy hit during the same melee heavy attack, gain 2.5% damage on your next melee heavy attack, or your next melee attack, sorry. The best defense, replenishment toughness after hitting multiple enemies with a single heavy melee attack. Smash 'em, replenish 20% toughness after hitting a single enemy with a heavy melee attack. So Horde, armor. Heavyweight, one of the best talents in the tree. 30% damage against Borgs, Crushers, Plague Ogryns, and Reapers. Also receive 30% damage reduction against the same. And they've got Linchpin into a toughness boost. So just out of these two nodes, we're gaining 50 toughness. The Frag Bomb, which is our get out of jail free card when a Horde is getting too spicy with us. Soften them up. Everything you touch takes 15% more damage for 5 seconds. Down into Indomitable, which is our charge. Stomping Boots replenish toughness per enemy hit. And Trample, gain damage for every enemy hit. And it works out to 50% damage if you can hit all 25 targets. And then we're dropping down here into going some Rending. And then Batter, inflict 4 stacks of bleed on heavy melee hit. And now this is the difference between the two builds. We're jumping down into the middle to gain more health. We're going to be taking Hard Knocks, 1% damage to your next heavy melee attack on enemy stagger, stacks 25 times, lasts 10 seconds. The larger the enemy, the more stacks are earned. Now, with this, the kickback also helps. So as you can see, it knocks things over, you get 4 stacks. The kickback can also stagger Crushers. As you can see there, you've got 13 stacks. And also the hook and hit adds more stacks. So every time we stagger, which is basically everything we do, we are gaining more damage. And all of our weapons, the grenade, the pickaxe, the gun, all of them stagger. So, jump back in. So that's hard knocks, and then we're grabbing stay close. 25% toughness replenishment for you and your allies in coherency. With linchpin, that helps. And this is just going to add a defensive boost to the entire team, as well as yourself. And down here, we're grabbing Get Stuck In and Bruiser. Reduces the cooldown of our ability and increases speed. And then we're jumping over here onto the left, and we're going the pretty much same route we go with any other heavy hitter build. Melee damage into Delight and Destruction, gaining damage resistance per bleeding enemy in melee range, stacked 6 times. Dominate, 10% rending on elite kill. Rending is basically an increased 10% damage. Implacable, 15% damage reduction while winding up a melee attack. Heavy hitter, plus 5% damage for 7.5 seconds on heavy attack. Hit stacks 5 times. So that's 25 damage, or 25% damage, sorry. Just getting started, while heavy hitter is at 5 stacks, gain 10% attack speed. This goes so nicely with the Cast Solus because it's a very fast weapon. Not as fast as the knives, but still a very fast weapon. And unstoppable, while heavy hitter is at 5 stacks, toughness replenishment from melee kills increased by 100%. So unstoppable is going to go very nicely with the best defense and smash them. So this is a slightly more defensible build than the last build that I showed off. The last build centers more around Bonebreaker's aura than it does around Stay Close. Stay Close is just going to be helping the overall team while reducing your damage ever so slightly. Because we're missing out on that node. And I think that's about it actually. We're just missing out on that. On 10% damage there and 10% damage there. But it's a very useful build, especially if you're just getting started into the Ogryn. This is a nice kind of entry before going into just a full Bonebreaker, which is a little bit more difficult to play, as it requires you to understand your positioning a lot more. With this, stay with the team and get support. And not only do you help defend the team, it defends you as well. Just going to go through the talents very slowly for you at the end here, so if you want to pause, now is your chance. And there you have it, folks. That is the heavy attack defensible build. Now, there is an even more defensible version of this, which I'll be showing you in the next video. So if you're interested, stick around and see if you can find it. But for everyone else, thank you very much for watching. If you've enjoyed, and I really do hope you have, please like, subscribe, ring that bell for notifications. It really does help us out, folks. And, you know, take it easy. So until the next video, I'll see you later.